The first 13 episodes of this Satoshi series focused on the public cryptography mailing list conversations in reaction to the release of the Bitcoin white paper. In summary of this first chapter, we can see that Satoshi is very tight-lipped about the specifics of Bitcoin surrounding its supply numbers, issuance schedule, and its monetary policy. He still has not revealed Bitcoin supply numbers in November of 2008. This is likely because he was still ironing out those details and getting feedback on them from people like Ray Dillinger. Overall, Satoshi reveals his shrewdness with this opening salvo to the world on the cryptography mailing list. It appears his goal was to make a low-key announcement of Bitcoin while recruiting interest from the brightest minds in freedom technology at the time, who likely helped him review his code before the network was launched in January of 2009. In these conversations, Satoshi doesn't make too many extreme political claims or remarks, but rather focuses on the technology itself rather than the political implications. Satoshi also had good emotional intelligence and social grace. He didn't take offense to any of the several abrasive emails he received, was gracious, polite, said sorry in one instance when he didn't need to. He was also to the point, but not curt, while often avoiding unnecessary confrontations. But sometimes he was confusing in his explanations of details or in the way he responded when he could have been much more clear. Perhaps this was intentional, as a way to show his frustration or disapproval with some replies he received passive-aggressively. But it also could have been a compulsion for the tangential, or he could have just been tired when responding. In any case, I hope this first chapter helped showcase some of Satoshi's characteristics and the social environment surrounding Bitcoin at its conception. Furthermore, as the Bitcoin conversation was shut down on the public cryptography mailing list, it went underground in private emails between Hal Finney, James Donald, Ray Dillinger, Nicholas Williams, David Mercer, Wei Dai, Adam Back, and Satoshi Nakamoto. There were likely more people involved, but those are the names we know of on private emails now publicly released. The contents of these emails are still mostly unknown, but one of them from Hal Finney to Satoshi resurfaced.
In 2020, CoinDesk published an article revealing private emails between Hal Finney and Satoshi Nakamoto. One of these emails was from Hal to Satoshi on Wednesday, November 19, 2008. Which came right after the Bitcoin white paper conversation was shut down on the cryptography mailing list. In this private email, Hal asks Satoshi, quote, I see. Thanks for the corrections. Some of the discussion and concern over performance may relate to the eventual size of the peer-to-peer node network. How large do you envision it becoming? Tens of nodes? Thousands? Millions? And for clients, do you think this could scale to be usable for close to 100% of world financial transactions? Or would you see it as mostly being used for some core subset of transactions that have special requirements, with other transactions using a different payment system that perhaps is based on Bitcoin? Hal.
Analysis. We don't know what private conversation details preceded this email by Hal, but we may have found Satoshi's reply buried in Marty Malmi's recently released emails with Satoshi. Marty, also known as Sirius, was the second official developer to work on Bitcoin after Hal Finney drifted away. Marty's email conversations with Satoshi were made public in 2024 and spanned from 2009 to 2011. Marty's third email with Satoshi included dozens of prior email answers Satoshi gave privately with others before May 2009. One of these emails matches up exactly as an answer to Hal Finney's November 19, 2008 email. It reads as follows.
100,000 block-generating nodes is a good ballpark large-scale size to think about. Propagating a transaction across the whole network twice would consume a total of 2 cents of bandwidth at today's prices. In practice, many would be burning off excess allocated bandwidth or unlimited plans with one of the cheaper backbones. There could be millions of SPV clients. They only matter in how many transactions they generate. If they pay 1 or 2 cents transaction fees, they pay for themselves. I've coded it so you can pay any optional amount of transaction fees you want. When the incentive subsidy eventually tapers off, it may be necessary to put a market-determined transaction fee on your transactions to make sure nodes process them promptly. To think about what a really huge transaction load would look like, I look at the existing credit card network. I found some more estimates about how many transactions are online purchases. It's about 15 million transactions per day for the entire e-commerce load of the internet worldwide. At 1 kilobyte per transaction, that would be 15 gigabytes of bandwidth for each block generating node per day, or about 2 DVD movies worth. Seems doable even with today's technology. Important to remember, even if Bitcoin caught on at .com rates of growth, it would still take years to become any substantial fraction of all transactions. I believe hardware has already recently become strong enough to handle large scale, but if there's any doubt about that, bandwidth speeds, prices, disk space, and computing power will be much greater by the time it's needed. Satoshi.
There are a few interesting things to notice here. One is from Satoshi's last email on the cryptography mailing list, where he publicly says to James Donald, "I sent you the main files." These files were the Bitcoin source code for draft Bitcoin client software. Also, we can see from the Hal Finney private email that the subject heading reads RE, Bitcoin source files attached, with James, Hal, and Ray Dillinger CC'd. Therefore, Satoshi sent the Bitcoin source code files to not just James, but also Ray Dillinger and Hal too. This draft code eventually resurfaced in 2013 when Ray Dillinger published a copy of the files to the infamous Bitcoin Talk forums. Within them are a treasure trove of interesting variations on the parameters the currently defined Bitcoin, including its 21 million supply cap. Satoshi had apparently been working on this code for more than a year and a half. More analysis on this draft code in our next video.
If you want to support more of this kind of content, visit shopbitcoin.shop.